There exists, within the feminine spirit, a force that cannot be replicated, a power that cannot be taught through charm or strategy. It is an invisible current, ancient and subtle, that draws the masculine, not through effort, but through essence. This magnetic energy has nothing to do with appearance, performance, or control. It emerges only when a woman remembers who she truly is beneath the layers of conditioning and expectation. Authentic femininity is not a costume to wear. It is a frequency that resonates from the depths of one's being when pretense falls away. It is born in silence, nurtured by self-acceptance, and refined through the courage to simply be. When a woman stops reaching outward to prove her worth, her very presence becomes a sanctuary. She no longer chases validation because her soul has found its home within her own energy. The magnetic feminine is not loud, nor is it desperate to be noticed. She holds an inner calm that seems to whisper to the chaos of the world, "Come and rest." Her power is not in demanding attention, but in creating an atmosphere where attention naturally gravitates toward her. The world feels her, even before it sees her. There is a serenity in her movements, a quiet certainty in her gaze that tells of a life lived from intuition rather than fear. Men sense this without fully understanding it. What draws them is not her words or her form, but the vibration of wholeness she carries. She does not need to convince anyone of her value because her energy speaks more truthfully than words ever could. This authenticity arises when the feminine ceases to fight herself. Many women today are taught to hide their sensitivity, to treat their gentleness as fragility, to replace their intuition with logic and their receptivity with resistance. In doing so, they lose the very magnetism that makes them unforgettable. The secret is not in becoming stronger by masculine standards, but in embracing the sacred softness that connects them to the pulse of life itself. True feminine energy does not seek to conquer, it invites. It does not manipulate, it moves naturally, like the moon pulling the tides without struggle or command. It is a silent authority that operates through resonance rather than force. The woman who embodies this energy no longer seeks to be chosen. She becomes the chooser of what aligns with her soul. Her self-worth is not dependent on being desired, for she already lives in communion with something deeper than desire. She knows that attraction built on appearance fades, but attraction born of essence endures. When she walks into a room, she does not seek to impress. It is the world that rearranges itself around her vibration. This is the difference between artificial charm and authentic magnetism. The former depends on reaction, the latter on being. Men are drawn to this authenticity, not because they consciously decide to be, but because the feminine in its pure state awakens something ancient within the masculine. It reminds him of what is missing in his own psyche: peace, intuition, surrender to the unseen. The authentic feminine becomes a mirror through which he glimpses his own forgotten wholeness. It is not her beauty that captures him, though it may be striking. It is the way she carries the invisible. Her energy feels like truth in a world of illusions, and truth always has gravity. This magnetic force does not compete with others, for it knows there is no comparison in authenticity. Each woman who embodies her natural essence radiates uniquely, like a star whose light cannot be duplicated. To cultivate this energy is not to learn a method, but to remember an origin, to return to the sacred stillness beneath the noise. The more a woman lives in alignment with her own soul, the more the world responds to her without explanation. She becomes both mystery and comfort, both the question and the answer, both the reflection and the source. The mystery of emotional alchemy. Within the depths of feminine energy lies a current that defies logic, the power to transform emotion into creation, pain into wisdom, and vulnerability into magnetism. This is the art of emotional alchemy, a mystery that few understand and even fewer have the courage to embody. In a world that worships control, the woman who allows herself to feel becomes a revolutionary force. Her emotions, once seen as weakness, are in truth the gateways to profound strength. Each feeling, no matter how dark or luminous, carries within it a hidden message, a vibration that seeks to be expressed rather than suppressed. When she stops running from her emotions and instead listens to them, she learns to turn chaos into clarity, sorrow into compassion, and desire into creative power. This process of emotional alchemy does not come from pretending to be calm or detached. It emerges through full presence with what arises. The feminine does not conquer emotion through denial, but through surrender to its rhythm. To feel deeply is her gift, and in that depth, she touches truths that intellect alone cannot reach. Her tears are not signs of fragility, but evidence of her capacity to cleanse her inner world. Her anger, when understood rather than feared, becomes a compass pointing toward her unmet boundaries. Her joy, when allowed to flow freely, becomes contagious, illuminating every space she enters. This is the dance of the emotional self, the wild, sacred flow that connects her to the mysteries of life. A man becomes captivated by a woman who has mastered this alchemy because she vibrates with authenticity. She does not hide behind masks of perfection or emotional control. She lives in the raw beauty of truth. Through her, he feels emotions he has long buried under logic and pride. Her laughter awakens his forgotten playfulness. Her silence confronts him with his own restlessness. Her tears stir his capacity for empathy. In her presence, he rediscovers the lost language of feeling, the subtle world that reason alone cannot interpret. This is why he becomes obsessed not with her appearance, but with the way she makes him feel alive again. The power of emotional alchemy also lies in her ability to transform pain into light. The feminine heart knows the terrain of heartbreak, rejection, and loss, yet she does not allow these to define her. Instead, she allows them to refine her. Each wound becomes a doorway into deeper understanding, each disappointment a lesson in self-worth. She no longer resists the cycles of life. She moves through them with grace, trusting that even the darkest emotion has purpose. Her strength does not come from invulnerability, but from her capacity to rise again and again, softer yet stronger, open yet unbreakable. Through this process, she becomes magnetic because she embodies resilience without bitterness and wisdom without superiority. In emotional alchemy, the feminine transforms energy through awareness. When she feels jealousy, she asks what part of her feels unseen. When she feels fear, she listens for the truth that seeks reassurance. When she feels love, she does not cling to it, but lets it flow, knowing that what is real cannot be lost. Her emotions become her teachers, her guides, her sacred language. This awareness radiates an energy that cannot be faked, for it comes from living in harmony with her inner world. She becomes like water, adaptable, powerful, reflective, and essential. The masculine, drawn to her, may not understand her, but he feels her depth. It calls to something ancient in him, something that longs to be moved and transformed. Few women allow themselves this level of emotional honesty, for it requires vulnerability and courage. But those who do become luminous, their energy is not static but alive, ever changing, ever growing. They do not suppress their feelings to appear strong. They channel them into presence, creativity, and compassion. This is the feminine mystery, the ability to feel everything without drowning in it, to hold contradictions without collapsing, to be both fire and water, shadow and light, love and rage, and still remain whole. The dance between power and surrender. At the core of true feminine energy exists a paradox, the union of strength and surrender, the art of embodying both power and softness without contradiction. It is a dance so subtle that the mind cannot fully grasp it, for it's beyond definitions. The feminine is not about control, yet she holds immense influence. She does not dominate, yet her presence shifts the energy of any space she enters. Her power is not the power of resistance, but of receptivity, not the force that pushes, but the current that draws. To live in this state is to understand that surrender is not weakness. It is the highest expression of trust in life's intelligence. When a woman allows herself to flow rather than fight, she becomes aligned with the rhythm of creation itself. Power, in its true feminine form, is quiet yet undeniable. It does not shout, it emanates. It is not concerned with hierarchy or conquest, but with connection and balance. The woman who embodies this power does not seek to outdo anyone, for she understands that her influence lies in her alignment, not her aggression. Her decisions arise from intuition rather than fear, and her confidence is born from knowing that she is guided by something greater than logic. This kind of power is magnetic. It calls rather than commands. Those around her feel safe and inspired, not diminished. She does not need to prove her worth, for her worth has already become an unshakable truth within her. Yet her power would lose its radiance without surrender. Surrender is her grace, her softness, her willingness to trust the unseen flow of existence. It is the way she allows life to move through her instead of trying to control every outcome. Surrender does not mean submission. It means receptivity. It is the capacity to remain open even when the mind demands closure, to trust that the unfolding is intelligent even when it is uncertain. Through surrender, the feminine opens the doorway to the mystical, the intuitive, and the creative. She becomes a vessel for the infinite to express itself through her. This is why her energy feels both grounding and transcendent. She belongs to the earth, yet she channels the divine. The man who encounters such a woman finds himself drawn into this polarity, often without knowing why. Her strength commands respect, yet her softness invites vulnerability. He feels both safe and challenged, comforted and awakened. She does not compete with him, she complements him. Her surrender does not make her dependent, it allows him to step into his own strength without feeling diminished. In her presence, he experiences the natural balance of energies that the world has long forgotten, the dance of giving and receiving, of direction and flow, of order and mystery. What obsesses him is not her compliance, but her completeness. He senses that in her surrender there is choice, and in her power there is peace. This balance is not achieved by pretending to be calm or strong. It is the result of deep inner work, of healing the parts that have been taught to fear vulnerability or to misuse strength. The feminine learns to hold both aspects within herself, to stand tall in her truth while keeping her heart open. She knows when to act and when to allow, when to speak and when to listen, when to lead and when to yield. Her intuition becomes her compass, guiding her not by rigid rules, but by subtle knowing. Through this awareness, she stops oscillating between extremes and begins to move with fluidity. Her life becomes a graceful dance between doing and being, motion and stillness, control and release. In this state, she ceases to fear surrender because she understands that it does not strip her of power, it amplifies it. Power without surrender becomes rigid, and surrender without power becomes weak. But when these two forces unite within her, she becomes whole. Her presence carries a natural rhythm, one that draws others into harmony simply by existing. She is the embodiment of balance, a living reminder that true strength is not found in resistance, but in the ability to remain open while standing firm. This is the secret of her allure, the unspoken truth that captivates those who meet her, for they sense in her the reconciliation of two great forces, the power to stand alone and the grace to flow with life, the inner union of the masculine and feminine. Within every human being resides both the masculine and feminine principles, two fundamental energies that shape the soul's movement toward wholeness. The feminine is the realm of intuition, emotion, and creation. The masculine is the realm of structure, logic, and direction. One without the other is incomplete, and when they exist in harmony, a profound inner union is born. This union is the foundation of true magnetism, for it dissolves the restless search for completion in the external world. The woman who achieves this balance does not seek the masculine to fill her emptiness, nor does she reject it in the name of independence. Instead, she integrates both forces within herself, becoming both softness and strength, both flow and form, both the dream and the direction that gives it shape. This inner marriage is not achieved through control, but through awareness. The feminine within her is the ocean of feeling, the intuitive voice that whispers truth beneath the noise of the mind. The masculine within her is the vessel that holds this ocean, giving her emotions depth and purpose, rather than chaos. When her inner masculine is weak, her energy may scatter. She drifts, she doubts, she gives without boundaries. When her inner feminine is suppressed, she becomes rigid, driven by goals, but devoid of meaning. Balance occurs when she learns to let her masculine protect her sensitivity instead of silencing it, and to let her feminine inspire her logic rather than drown it. In that moment, she becomes sovereign whole unto herself. From this inner balance arises an energy that captivates naturally. A woman who has united her inner forces radiates a calm that feels both grounded and ethereal. She does not need to compete or to chase. Her presence alone creates a gravitational pull. Men sense something unfamiliar, yet deeply comforting in her, a reflection of the balance they unconsciously seek within themselves. She mirrors to them what their own souls long for: harmony between will and emotion, purpose and passion, thought and feeling. In her presence, they feel both the safety of structure and the freedom of surrender. She becomes the living embodiment of equilibrium, and this wholeness is the true source of her allure. The path to this union often begins with confrontation with the parts of herself she has rejected. The modern world has taught many women to glorify their masculine aspects: independence, control, ambition. These traits are valuable, but without the grounding of the feminine, they become exhausting. Likewise, suppressing the feminine, the intuition, the softness, the sensitivity, creates an internal disconnection that no achievement can soothe. Healing occurs when she allows both energies to coexist in dialogue rather than opposition. She learns to lead with heart and to feel with direction. Her masculine side becomes her inner protector, setting boundaries, upholding discipline, and taking inspired action. Her feminine side becomes her inner muse, infusing those actions with empathy, grace, and creativity. Together, they form the sacred rhythm of her existence. This harmony changes how she relates to the world. She no longer enters relationships seeking to be completed, because she already embodies the union that others are unconsciously drawn to. When she loves, she does not lose herself in the other. She expands herself through connection. Her energy does not cling or chase because she no longer fears loss. What she offers is not dependency, but partnership, a resonance that calls forth the highest in another. The man who encounters her feels both respected and inspired, for she honors his masculinity without diminishing her own inner power. She is not seeking his validation, she is sharing her completeness. This exchange transcends attraction. It becomes a meeting of balanced souls. To live in this union is to move beyond polarity while still honoring it. She can be assertive without hardness, receptive without passivity, emotional without instability, rational without coldness. Her actions arise from stillness, and her stillness contains motion. Every choice she makes becomes an expression of inner integration. Such a woman does not live from reaction but from creation, guided not by fear but by inner equilibrium. She becomes her own sanctuary, her own guide, her own foundation. The world may shift around her, but she remains centered because her masculine holds her feminine in safety, and her feminine breathes life into her masculine purpose. In this sacred balance lies the essence of her radiance, the quiet secret that few ever master yet all instinctively recognize when they encounter it. The feminine as a mirror of the soul. The deepest secret of feminine energy lies in its ability to reflect not through imitation, but through resonance. The feminine is the mirror of the unseen, the vessel through which the soul reveals itself to consciousness. When a man meets a woman who embodies her true feminine essence, he does not simply see her. He sees himself reflected in her light and shadow. She becomes a living mirror, awakening within him the dormant parts of his being. This reflection does not flatter, it reveals. It calls him toward wholeness, toward the forgotten landscape of his own depths. Her energy stirs something ancient in him, not because she fulfills his desires, but because she reminds him of what he has lost the capacity to feel, to dream, to surrender to mystery. A woman who carries this mirror energy does not try to please or conform. She simply exists in truth, and her truth becomes illumination for others. When she looks at a man, she does not see the mask he presents to the world. She sees the essence behind it. This sight can be both magnetic and unsettling, for she perceives his potential as well as his wounds. Through her presence, he feels both inspired and exposed. The feminine mirror does not judge, she reflects. She shows what is, without distortion, and in doing so, she becomes a catalyst for transformation. It is not that she intends to change anyone. Change happens naturally around her because truth always reorganizes what is false. Men often become obsessed with such women, not because they are perfect, but because they are real. In a world built on illusion, the real is intoxicating. Her authenticity invites his own. He feels drawn to her energy, as one drawn to a fire on a cold night, not just for warmth, but for remembrance. The warmth of her presence reawakens the part of him that longs for meaning beyond success, control, and reason. She does not seek to dominate his heart. She reflects it back to him until he can see what he truly desires. Through her gaze, he glimpses his own depth, and that vision becomes the obsession. Yet, this mirroring is not always comfortable. The feminine who embodies soul reflection becomes a light that exposes the shadows. She may awaken in others emotions they have avoided, the fear of vulnerability, the ache of longing, the pain of disconnection. Many cannot endure such reflection and will try to control, idealize, or even reject her. But those willing to face their reflection will find liberation in her presence. This is why her energy feels both healing and dangerous. She holds the power to awaken, but awakening requires the death of illusion. Her beauty, then, is not merely physical, it is spiritual. It reveals, challenges, and transforms. For the woman herself, embodying this mirror energy is both a gift and a responsibility. She must cultivate the clarity to reflect truth without absorbing it. If she becomes entangled in others' projections, she loses her radiance. Her power lies in her neutrality, the ability to witness without judgment, to feel deeply without losing herself in another storm. This requires inner strength, boundaries rooted in love, and a continuous return to her own center. Only when she is anchored in her essence can she reflect purely. Otherwise, the mirror becomes clouded with fear and need. The feminine who learns this art becomes luminous, not because she takes energy from others, but because she channels the infinite through her awareness. In her highest state, she mirrors not just the individual soul, but the collective one. Her energy becomes archetypal: the mother, the muse, the mystic, the lover, all forms of reflection through which the world sees itself anew. She reminds others of their forgotten connection to the sacred. Through her, love ceases to be a transaction and becomes revelation. She does not chase affection because she understands that she is the source of it. She does not demand recognition because her worth is self-evident. Her very being is a mirror through which life recognizes itself. Those who look into her see the divine, and that recognition changes them. The obsession she inspires is not born of possession, but of awakening. Man who meets her feels as if he has found something, lost a piece of his own soul. He may confuse this reflection for desire, yet what he truly longs for is the wholeness she evokes within him. Her presence does not promise completion through her, but through the rediscovery of himself. This is the true secret of the feminine energy. Few understand. Her beauty lies not in how she captivates others, but in how she awakens what is sacred within them. She mirrors love, truth, and eternity, not through effort but through being, reminding every soul that what it seeks has always lived within its own reflection. The essence of the feminine, that few understand and even fewer embody, is not a performance to attract, but a remembrance of one's truest self. It is the art of returning to the inner source from which magnetism, emotion, power, and presence naturally arise. When the feminine becomes authentic, she radiates without trying. When she honors her emotions, she transforms suffering into wisdom. When she balances her strength with surrender, she becomes both grounded and transcendent. When she unites her inner masculine and feminine, she no longer seeks outside validation, and when she mirrors the soul, she awakens the divine in others. This is the feminine energy that obsesses, not because it seduces the surface, but because it calls the deepest parts of another into remembrance. It is an energy that heals, reveals, and restores balance in a world that has forgotten how to feel, how to trust, and how to love beyond fear.